So what can I say except, oops, I found another machine that I wanted to have. And here it is, my Kenmore 1914. Early to mid 1970s, metal, except for the odd bit, but outside it's, the mechanical parts are metal, steel. It's not super heavy, so it's plate steel, which is great. And very quiet, very reliable. So, the biggest problem I've got is this sewing table is actually a treadle from not even a Singer bed. So it's actually from a National machine, which was originally sold by Timothy Eaton Company in Toronto, I guess. And the machine was dead. I didn't really care for it. It was a vibrating shuttle machine. Wasn't too worried about it, but I wanted the treadle, and as you can see, I've butchered the table to fit. So this whole, oops, wrong way around. This is so the treadle would fit all the different treadle machines. Now if I were a woodworker, I would really trim this up, but you can see even the width of the machines is different. This is so it takes my 301 base, and basically no matter what, this is how I've had to butcher this bit of wood. But it is only a bit of wood, and it could always be replaced with another bit of oak. But to fit the Kenmore, which is much larger footprint, I took that off, and then I've put a shelf underneath, which can stay there, it doesn't really matter. I never lower the machines, but it does pull out. And I've sort of improvised this. Now, this machine does need to be raised up a bit more. It's still a bit too low. I've put a ruler in the back to make the fabric slide over. So for free motion, it definitely needs to come up more. What I'm going to try and do is find a Kenmore top somewhere, because I'm sure it would slot in here better and would cover this better. But it doesn't matter, as an improvisation it works fine. I just need to raise the machine up a little bit more so it's flat here, and then it will sew. But it certainly sews perfectly now, and it's good because it's in the table. So why did I want the Kenmore? Well, the fundamental reason was because these machines are super good at buttonholes. I know they do a lot more, but I had a Plastic Fantastic machine from must have been very early 1980s or very late 70s, once Sears had gone to plastic. The reverse lever eventually broke, but I glued it back together and kept that machine going a long time. But eventually I started upgrading to more exotic machines. But I always liked that machine. I thought it did so very well always, but it made fantastic buttonholes. So this machine has the typical Kenmore buttonholer, which you attach here, and it fixes in there. And I will demonstrate that in one of the videos coming up. But I hunted around trying to figure out, okay, which one of these machines out of all the Kenmores should I go for? Opted for this one because it did everything, all the cams, all the patterns, reverse stitch, a really good machine. I believe someone said in another video that it's made by Janome. I'm inclined to probably think it is, but whatever the case is, it's extremely well made. I mean, this is a good machine. Super high shank, which I actually think is remarkably, I know it's very much like the Bernina, but I also think it's like the Singer slant shanks. I think they must have realized that this angle is good for sewing. It just works very well. I know the needle's not on the shank here, but this back part, the way it secures the fabric is very much like the Bernina or a Singer slant shank. It just really works well. And you'll recall, of course, that overlockers always use that, or tend to use that style. The only, being a super high shank, there are some slight oddities about it. This one has this type of screw needle clamp, which a lot of people grumble about, but actually it's fine. I always have a screwdriver handy, so it makes little odds to me. This wrench thing is just a bizarre concept, but it works very well. It's easier than a lot of the other screw contraptions, so I think there's mileage in it. The feet, metal or plastic or a bit of both. So this is a satin stitch foot. It's got the trough there. It's all metal. Like the really high lift on this. These things are very easy. All around, really nice machine. Foot pressure control here. I'm going to change the light bulb out for a non-incandescent so it's less hot. It's actually an easy thread machine, which is blinking quite something else out of this world. I like these, where you've got the little crow's nest on top, like pretty much all modern machines now. It's a little bit odd when you first thread it, because it seems upside down, but just have to remember you always go in that order. So it's pretty easy. And just put a needle back, put the needle in the highest place. Stitch width 0, so we'll go back to straight stitch. There's a little clamp back here. Make sure it's hooked in that. Perfect. So when I got it, it hadn't been used for a long time, needed oiling, re-greased it, did all the usual things that I've demonstrated in recent videos. Adjusted the belts so that it ran well. It's got a slight squeak at the moment, but I haven't figured out where that's from, but I'm not bothered about it. It doesn't seem to be anything problematic. I have the full set of cams, the full set of buttonholers, cams, pretty much everything I could try and get for this machine, and I shall gradually work through demonstrating all of the different functions it has. There's even with the 2 original needles. So this is the longest stitch. Let's do a little demonstration of some basic sewing. Okay, so I've got set to 10 stitches per inch. Oop. Broke the thread. What have I done wrong? I've definitely not threaded this 100%. Ah, yes. Sometimes I miss this and get it the wrong way around. So it's better to bring it out, open the door so you don't make that mistake just when you're threading it. Excellent demonstration. So this is a machine which has been used and loved, which often I find, if the machine's been maintained, is better than having a machine which is just sat there and never used, because it's not been broken in, it's not been oiled regularly. So you can see how quiet and smooth it is. It goes at a good speed as well. So that's short. Then if we want zigzag, we just widen the zigzag and decrease this. Satin stitch going. Oh, it's pretty good. Feeding. I could reduce it a bit more. Then if you want to put it into reverse stitch, you just do that. Increase the stitch length. So you can do all sorts of weird and wonky things here. I'll zoom in. So the neat thing about this modifier is you can control how you want the zigzag. So that comes a bit decorative when you do that, but it's not what you recognize. If you then reduce it to the shortest, you'll recognize the rick-rack stitch. And that's all you do to do that. It's not a problem. It looks really well. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll change the pattern to, put it back to normal. Multi-point zigzag is fun because it works really well. This is one of the patterns that, of course, I love to use for repairing things. And what you do is you really reduce the stitch length much shorter so that it's much closer like that. Now what is really neat about, of course, the multi-point zigzag is if you put on reverse feed, then you get, so that's when it's long modifier. If it's short modifier, then you'll get you get there, and then if you reduce the stitch length a bit, right, and then if I put it up to the maximum width, which is quite a wide stitch on this machine, so it's a very wide stitch, you get that sort of smocking stitch. Now this, for a mechanical reverse machine, is very, very nicely balanced. I give it real points. I never thought I would actually like a mechanical machine with the reverse stitch, because the weight, depending of the reverse mechanism, tend to make them run a bit slow. However, they really did spend a lot of time designing these machines extremely well, with the result that actually it just sews beautifully, even with the reverse stitch. You know, it just does just really so well. Let's go back to normal stitch. And what we'll do is we'll go this way, and then we'll do a cam demonstration. So I'm going to put this back, zoom out so you can see the cam demonstration.